Hey guys, Cookie and Swanee here once again. There has been a recent development that is pretty interesting, not just to this specific game, but to video games in general. So we're going to talk about this situation. It involves the game Rainbow Six Siege, which is extremely popular and has a massive online audience. Well, recently they have a new system for banning people that use hate speech in their lobbies. This applies to text chat at this point. Obviously, they don't have the technology for voice chat or anything like that. But if you are to type any word that they do not approve of, you could be banned. There's a system. I believe it's like I think you have to get 3 strikes to get completely banned. Although some people have said that they've gotten banned on the first offense. So there has been different ways of getting banned simply for saying a word that they deem as hate speech. So on one side, Swanee, I think we could consider this a good thing. However, there's always a darker side to this because it never seems to be implemented correctly. And at some point they're going to want to try and crack down on voice chat and things of that nature as well, although I don't know how they would do that. So just tell me in general, what is your first impression when you hear the idea of games banning people for hate speech used while playing the game?
Okay, well, see, I have, I guess, an unpopular opinion, but I am all for free speech. I think you should be able to say whatever the hell you want at any given time, and there be no consequences, which obviously doesn't apply to these privately owned companies because, that just applies to the government, but I feel like you should say whatever. It's an immature game, so obviously you have to be over that age limit or you have parental consent. According to law, that's how it is. So you have to be a mature player to be able to get that far anyway. And it says on the box that there's probably what language, I would assume, if it's an immature game. Mm-hmm. So if you're not, if you can't handle mean words, then why are you playing an immature game? Well, I would assume. I don't know if this game's immature. It could be T for teen. I don't know. I'd have to double check. But I'm
pretty sure it's
It's just this, as a society, everyone's getting too butthurt. Everyone, no one can be offended ever. If you're offended, oh my God, it's the end of the world. We demand apologies now, and that's how it is. And it's just everything's becoming PC, and now it's starting to bleed into video games, and I'm completely against it. If you want to call me a mean word, you go for it. I don't care.
I see them hitting up the comments with mean hate speech now towards Swanee. You've opened yourself up to that one.
I admit the video games. You go ahead. I don't care.
I will say that I understand this to an extent because I think when it comes to text chat, and again, we don't play Rainbow Six Siege, but I would assume with text chat, it's something that is obviously coming up, and it's not because you can mute the voice whenever you want in video games. So if someone wants to just spout the N-word over and over again 100 times, which people do constantly on video games, but in public lobbies and stuff, but you can always mute that. I would imagine you could mute the text chat.
Most text chats
just didn't want to see random words.
A list of words that are blacklisted or whatever, so they just don't show up.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that that's not even a feature in this game. They just go straight to banning you.
It may be a feature, but maybe they want to ban them anyway.
Maybe.
Which I think is possibly what they're doing. Again, it's not a game we're super familiar with.
I just looked it up. This game has strong language in the rating. Blood, drug reference, strong language, violence. But it says online interactions are not rated. But, you have to buy the game knowing it's immature to even get to the online. So...
Yeah, I think this is a bad slippery slope, though. I don't know if necessarily what they're doing right here in this one case is bad, but this is a slippery slope, and I don't like where it goes. Usually things, when it comes to political correctness, they go from something that's okay, yeah, that's probably best if we don't have that, to, okay, now I can't speak freely, ever. That's what eventually comes to political correctness, because we never control it. We don't stop. We always go to the next thing, and that's why I'm very cautious every time they want to do stuff like this because I think it's going to lead to something much worse. Like this, I don't think is that big a deal. However, if they start trying to get angry over voice chat and you like die and you say the F-bomb, are you going to get some sort of ban for that? Like that would destroy video games. Video games are, in a lot of ways, video games are one of the areas that are, I don't want to say clear of political correctness because there's still tons of PC stuff in video games all the time. But I feel like the fans of video games tend to be very unpolitically correct to a pretty high extent. I think there's a very large portion of video game fans that want nothing to do with political correctness. I think it's an escape for a lot of people. There's nothing politically correct about Grand Theft Auto. It's one of the most popular games ever. There's nothing politically correct about it, but that's kind of the point. It's supposed to be dumb, over the top, and completely inappropriate. But people love that about Grand Theft Auto. They love it about a lot of games. I mean, most video games are you killing people. That's obviously shouldn't be politically correct, but that works in the world of video games. I think it's a dangerous thing to start cracking down on this kind of stuff too much. Like I said, this right here, I don't think is necessarily that big a deal, but I don't like where this could lead. And generally, when things get politically correct, they go way over the top political correctness, and then it just ruins the product. I've seen it happen in sports. I've seen it happen in movies. I don't want to see it happen in video games.
Yeah,
and it looks like
I understand how this is like video games are becoming more and more popular, and they're becoming more mainstream, and they're being streamed, and they're being broadcast on ESPN, and blah 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 blah, and you want to have like good sportsmanship, I guess is what people are kind of comparing it to. And you wouldn't like throw an F-bomb on a basketball court, you'd get a foul. But it's, well, depending on if the ref hears you or not.
I guess, yeah.
But they're kind of going that route. Like, you should never just throw hate at somebody for no reason. Like, it's not really called for. Like, I wouldn't walk up to somebody on the street and say, F you, just to do it. So I don't really understand why people do it in video games. It's probably because they're sitting at their home and there's nothing the other person can do about it.
Yeah, it's kind of the same reason people are such dicks on Twitter.
Yeah, just
on
mute
YouTube
the person.
It's not face-to-face.
Or don't go into a game chat. There are tons of games where I can't remember the last time I was in game chat because I'm always either in a party or something. Like, you have to kind of go out of your way now in video games to go into game chat. And a lot of time, people don't even talk. So, I don't know. But it's kind of adding the trash talk aspect to it. Like, there's competition. In real-life sports, people kind of trash talk each other. They kind of get into the game. They want to play the sport and have competition with one another. If you kind of remove that in video games, I mean, what, you just can't trash talk anymore? Like, hey, my team's better than yours?
Yeah.
Like, how far are we going to go?
That's too offensive. Yeah. When does it end? Yeah, that's my concern. I'm really worried how far they're planning on taking this, because video games, I think a lot of people are attracted to it because it is so, on some levels, unpolitically correct. I think there is a huge audience that enjoys that aspect of video games. I mean, you even look at the NFL. I remember they came down with a rule, I think it was a couple of years ago, where if you said the N-word during a game, you'd get a penalty or you might even get thrown out. And there were a lot of players really pissed about it. So, like, look, it's in the heat of the moment. It's something I would say, it's not something I'm necessarily super proud of, but it is something, I say sometimes. I don't want to get thrown out of a game just because I got caught up in the heat of the moment and spouted the N-word. It's like, these things happen. Sometimes they use that for trash talk and things like that. And I kind of get that. I mean, it might not be something you're happy you said, but there's a lot of heat of the moment kind of stuff. And video games, they have some of that too. And I just think, like, people...
Yeah, like, look at PewDiePie.
I think we're going way too far on
when
this kind of
PewDiePie
stuff.
blurted the N-word, I'm sure he didn't mean that about that person. He just was in the heat of the moment. He just spurted it out. And you can say these hateful words, and it doesn't mean that you're a hateful person. Like, if I don't know, an old lady screams out fuck because she stubbed her toe, does it mean she's a piece of shit because she has a dirty mouth? Like,
I like the example. an old lady walking down the street.
Well, people give power to these words. Like, they're just words.
Yeah, they do.
Like, you're just using your voice box to, like, produce a word. That's all it is. People giving all the power to these words, telling you that you cannot say these words, is what makes these words so powerful. If everybody said them on the daily, the F word wouldn't be nearly as offensive if everybody said it. So,
I mean, that's true. It's such a touchy subject for a lot of people when it comes to like swearing and things. But I just feel like for the most part, this stuff just does not need a whole bunch of rules regulating it. I really don't think there should be gigantic regulations when it comes to swearing. I feel like swearing in general it's a disrespectful way of talking. It's not something like you walk into a church and you start blaring the F-bomb, or you go to a funeral or something, you start blaring the F-bomb. It's very disrespectful in certain areas. Mm-hmm. On a video game, though, give me a break. This isn't like a special event where you got to show a bunch of respect.
To me, it depends on the game type. If it's an E for everyone game and it's like some kind of kid game and you're in there dropping the F-bomb, then that's one thing. But if it's an M for mature game, then you should kind of expect people to have more foul language. And I think what they're trying to do with this hate speech thing is just to like stop like racism and individual targeting. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, and like cyberbullying,
like that kind of stuff.
To that extent.
But then our concern is how far does that reach? Like, what do they consider hate speech? Like, if I say, F off, Cookie, my team's better than yours, eat a dick. Like, is that considered hate speech?
It could be considered a gay slur. They eat a dick.
I guess.
I know they're trying to go after homophobia, too, which is even, I feel like would be even broader to be potentially, because a lot of people say, like, oh, that's gay. They say that all the time.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even realize.
They are probably going to want to weed out statements like that.
I just said eat a dick, but then I
know.
Guess that could be taken
that's what people do.
As an insult.
They
like,
say stuff like
way.
that, and then like, oh, I guess that could be considered homophobic or racist. But it doesn't mean the person's a homophobe or a racist. It's just kind of, it comes out. And I think in video games that comes out a lot more often than in normal life. Because you're not face to face with these people, so you blare stuff.
That a lot of people play video games to relieve stress.
I don't like this slippery slope. That's true.
If they're playing a game to relieve stress, they're going to blurt out just random things when they're angry and or in the heat of the moment. And I mean, you stub your toe, for example. Again, you scream out a curse word because I don't know. Screaming a curse word helps relieve the pain a smidge. That's just what people do. They scream, whatever.
It's a mental thing.
Yeah. Like if I stub my toe, it hurts really bad. I'm not going to scream bunny rabbit and flowers or something nice. I'm going to just scream a curse word. It's just reaction. And
just imagine it. I think it's the same old
you can't change. You can't change that. Like PC, everyone that's politically correct is just trying to rewrite the way that the brain works. And they want everybody to be nice and nothing negative ever comes out of life. And that's not how it works. But
yeah, political correctness is it's very bad on a lot of different levels.
Needs to stay out of video games.
If not for just the reason of like, it needs to stay out of a lot of things. Like any kind of art, if you get too politically correct about art, you kind of kill art. It has to be able to be free and allow for certain things. And video games is a certain kind of art. I know people won't necessarily think about that when it comes to swearing and stuff. But certainly when it comes to making the game and certain aspects of the game, if you have to factor in, would this offend people if I do it this way? Well, then you're losing your art. So I think there's a lot of different elements to the issues of political correctness. But as always, we do want to hear what you guys have to say as well. Is this a big deal? Is it good that they're doing this? Are you concerned about the slippery slope? Are you concerned about political correctness in general in video games? Or do you think this is all a bunch of hoopla and not a big deal at all? Let us know in the comments down below. We'd love to hear your opinions. As always, smash that like button, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications if you have not done so already. And we shall see you in the next video. If you guys are watching this on Monday, tomorrow night would be Tuesday the 17th. We're going to have a pretty big drunk stream, so please join us for that. And that's it for us. We'll talk to you later.
We would be honored if you would join us. You cannot resist